Welcome to the Mormon Truth Podcast. So glad that you're joining me. Today, we're going to talk about something that is controversial and actually is so controversial that it is a faith tester for sure. And so let's just have a real conversation. The title of this is, If Joseph Smith Didn't Practice Polygamy, Then What? There's a growing number of Latter-day Saints, especially online, who are uncomfortable with polygamy. And understandably so. It's messy, it's painful. It doesn't fit the image of Joseph Smith that many of us grew up with. So some are turning to what feels like a comforting solution. Well, maybe Joseph never practiced polygamy at all. Maybe Brigham Young made it all up. Of course, Brigham Young, he's been chastised retrospectively. I mean, we basically said, look, he was wrong about the Adam God theory. He was wrong about blacks in the priesthood, et cetera, et cetera. So why not just say he was wrong and he was a bad guy about polygamy as well? I understand why that theory appeals to people. It lets us protect Joseph's legacy. It lets us avoid the hard questions, and it gives us someone to blame. Brigham. There's all kinds of negative things being said about Brigham and the things that he did. But there are consequences to this thinking, all right? Here's the thing. If you believe Joseph Smith was innocent, if you believe he told the truth when he said, I only have one wife, then you have to follow that all the way through. Because if Joseph was telling the truth, then Brigham Young was a liar. John Taylor was a liar. Wilford Woodruff was a liar. Lorenzo Snow was a liar, all the way down. And not just them, then Eliza R. Snow, one of Joseph's plural wives, Relief Society president and beloved church poet, was a liar too. Lucy Walker, Emily and Eliza Partridge, dozens of women, dozens of men, leaders, apostles, saints. If Joseph was a monogamist and they said otherwise, then these people didn't just make a mistake. They were liars. They forged revelations. They coached women into signing affidavits. They rewrote history. They built a theology and an entire church culture on a deliberate fraud. And not for a year or two, for 50 years. If you believe Joseph never practiced polygamy, then you have to believe that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from 1844 to 1890 was led by false prophets and spiritual manipulators. That the quorum of the 12 was corrupted from the top down. That the first generations of Latter-day Saint women were either deceived or complicit. That the restoration splintered not because of persecution, but because of deception. Now ask yourself, is that really more believable? Is it more likely that dozens of people, many of them women with no reason to lie, kept up a perfectly consistent story for a half century, all to protect Brigham's libido? Or is it more likely that Joseph Smith, under intense pressure and acting on what he sincerely believed was a commandment from God, introduced plural marriage privately, and that Brigham Young simply carried it forward? Now, I'm not saying you have to like polygamy. Most people don't. I don't. I'm not saying Joseph's secrecy was admirable, and maybe it was a commandment. We just don't understand it. He denied publicly what he was practicing privately, and that's hard to reconcile. But a lot of things we just don't understand, and we have to accept that. But pretending he never did it just to protect our feelings only leads to worse conclusions. Because if Joseph didn't do it, then the very people who built the church you love, who wrote your hymns, crossed the plains, raised temples, and kept the faith, were all liars. And frankly, that doesn't hold up. The documents don't support it. The affidavits don't support it. The testimonies, journals, court records, and sealing records don't support it. The idea that Brigham Young invented polygamy is a comforting illusion. The truth is messier, though, but it is also more consistent, more honest, and ultimately more faithful, because it means that even though our prophets were human, even though they made mistakes, they were trying to obey the voice they believed was from God. And that's something we can work with. That's a legacy we can wrestle with. But rewriting history to make it more comfortable, that's not faith. That's fiction. If this challenged you, great. Sit with it. Keep digging. Look at the sources. Ask God. Truth doesn't need to be easy. It just needs to be true. And the way to know the truth is through the Holy Ghost. Thanks for listening. Take care.